Let's talk to John Rentoul and find out what it's all about. John, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Shall we start?
You left out the earnings figures there. Some good news at last.
Yeah, earnings are up.
Earnings went up by 5%.
Well, yeah, they went up. Didn't they go up by a smaller number than that, though? I thought it was a smaller number.
5.2%. That's more than inflation, and so people should be feeling better off.
Well, that'll be all the public sector pay rises that the government's handed out for free, isn't it?
Who knows?
Yes, I think yes is the word you're looking for, John.
No, I think
22% for the doctors, 15% for the train drivers. But that's why wages have gone up. I think you'll find it's because it's
no, it's good news, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's good news, because if it's public sector wages, it's not necessarily good news, because it's more taxpayers' money being given to people who are not necessarily producing any wealth. You know what I mean?
Oh, I thought we were going to agree, Mike.
No, look, too early for that sort of thing.
Wages are rising faster than prices, and private sector wages are generally rising faster than public sector wages, and you ought to be pleased about that.
Yeah, well, I'm always pleased when my wages go up, but they haven't, so I've got nothing to tell you, I'm afraid, on that front. I mean, my wages remain the same. So, but let's talk about this this Brexit situation before we come around to unemployment figures and all the rest of it, because there's clearly something going on, isn't there, between Keir Starmer and the European Union. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, it's not a surprise that if we are going to try to remove some of the obstacles to trade which are making us poorer, since Brexit, that would involve a role for the European Court. I mean, because that's the European Court enforces the standards that apply to the single market. So,
yes.
If we are going to align ourselves with the single market more closely in order to make our trade more friction-free, more efficient, and more profitable, then yes, that's going to involve a role for the European Court. But Keir Starmer doesn't want us to say that yet.
No, he doesn't. He's been quite careful, isn't he? Because I mean, he's off on his travels again. He's going to Estonia today. I'm not quite sure why he's going there. He was in Norway yesterday. But there's also a story I read somewhere. I can't remember find it wherever it was this morning. But apparently we're being sued by the European Union as well because
that was in the Independent, Mike.
Oh well, that's where I saw it. Yeah, I was reading the Independent.
The European Commission is taking us to court. Because of some objections it had to the way we operated the free movement rules after we'd left the European Union, but before the end of the transition period.
Yes.
I'm afraid I don't understand the details, but that is
it's not the act of an organisation that wants us to come back in and have closer ties, surely.
Well, no, it's an act of a bureaucratic, rules-based organisation.
Yes. Yes,
which is what the European Union is.
Which is presumably why Keir Starmer likes it so much, because he likes a rules-based organisation, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. It's his sort of thing. That's why he's so keen to stay in it.
Easy for him to follow. Actually, I see what I read in the Independent today, which I thought was very good, was Isabel Hardman's piece about Rachel Reeves and her star being very much on the wane, because, she came in with all this great sort of hope of being, somewhere between, a cross between Gordon Brown and, Jesus Christ, and she was going to be fantastic for everything. And it turns out it hasn't quite worked out that way. And so now, even her own party, who thought that she was the next big thing, are thinking that she isn't.
Yeah, no, that is one of the surprising developments since the election, is that her star has fallen somewhat. And the fact that even Keir Starmer, I am told, thinks that the winter fuel payment cut was a mistake.
Yeah.
Although I don't think he's planning to reverse it, suggests that she's not quite the miracle worker that people thought she was. I mean, she's a very strong performer in the House of Commons, but she is no Gordon Brown.
She doesn't have the Midas touch financially, though, does she? Economically.
Well, we'll see about that. I mean, as I say, wages are rising faster than prices, and maybe the economy will turn around next year.
Yeah, maybe. There's always hope. I mean, that's not really much of a thing to hang your hat on, though, is it? And when we see the FT today, Rachel Reeves' increase in business taxes has led companies to cut back on hiring, according to a leading survey. I don't know how much you like surveys, John. Adding to warnings, the budget has sapped corporate confidence heading into the new year. So there's no maybes about them.
No, I know. I mean, but all that is people just complaining about the weather or the sea.
No, it's not. No, it's private sector employment in December falling at the fastest pace since 2009.
Yes, because there has to be. I mean, because The point is the Conservatives left the public finances in such a mess that Rachel Reeves was forced to put up taxes, and yes, that's going to have an effect on the economy.
She wasn't forced to put up taxes. She chose to put up taxes. They call it a difficult choice. They don't say that they had to do it, because we know they didn't have to do it. They could have done.
Well, they do say they had to do it. They say they were forced. They were forced to make a difficult
they said
choice.
They had to make difficult choices. Those were their words.
Yes, and they made the right choices, which was to put up taxes rather than to.
Well, that depends on what side of the divide you're on.
Which is already cut to the bone.
But they haven't cut public spending. They've spent billions.
That's my point. They chose not to cut public spending because that would have been the wrong choice, Mike.
Well, in your view, it would have been the wrong choice. But for an awful lot of people, spending billions and billions of pounds and giving it to countries to make sure that their climate change net zero targets might be met at some point into the future is not a choice that they think they would agree with. And similarly, handing money hand over fist to people who are economically inactive and who remain economically inactive, even though Liz Kendall says it's time for something to be done about it, is also not something that people are in agreement with. So there's an awful lot of money being wasted, let's put it that way.
Well, yes, but it'll take time to sort that out, I think.
Yes, but is there any idea inside of Labour? But no, of course you can't do it overnight. But I love the way that Labour now want to do some things very quickly, but then say they can't do anything overnight. You know, they've insisted on bringing the VAT onto private schools in January, which they didn't have to do. They insisted on bringing the winter fuel allowance in this winter, which they didn't have to do, and then they complain about how they can't do things overnight.
Yeah, well,
they did those things overnight.
I agree. I'm afraid I'm going to agree.
I
with
know.
you,
You're going to have to.
The point is that the Labour Party was not ready for government. They were taken by surprise by Rishi Sunak calling an early election.
Yes,
they had not got their preparations done, and so they're doing an awful lot of reviewing and consulting and thinking about things and asking people for advice. They did say that everything. No, but they did say they were ready for government. And they did say that everything had been fully costed that they wanted to bring in, and neither of which of those two statements were true. Correct.
Yeah. So why did they make them?
I'm afraid I'm going to agree with you again.
I know. It's hard not to agree with me most of the time, John. Sometimes I think you disagree with me for the sake of it.
I've managed quite well so far.
You've done very well. Now, can you explain, because I've yet to find somebody who can explain this to me, and this is the new Devolution Revolution plan by Angela Rayner, because we had a very interesting caller on. Supposedly this business is to in fact, Tom Hunt, former Conservative MP, actually said he was in favour of it, to kind of, slightly amortise and to change the way that local authorities are run, and anything more than 1.5 million people is going to be sort of lumped in as one thing. But we had a caller from Dorset who said, there's about 1 million people living in Dorset. Will that become part of some other authority, or will it remain outside of it? Will the local council elections still take place in May or not? Nobody seems to really know the detail of all this stuff.
No, that is extraordinary. I mean, the suggestion that they're going to cancel the local elections next year, I thought was... that sort of came out of nowhere. Yeah. Because a lot of the stuff in the white paper is unobjectionable. I've got no problem with local councils combining in combined authorities and having directly elected mayors. That seems to work quite well in places like Manchester and other parts of the country. I'm
not sure. I wouldn't be. I'm not necessarily against it, and I'm just saying my kind of willingness to let it happen would be based on, will it make things more efficient? Will it make things cheaper, or will it make things less efficient and more expensive? And I fear the latter will be the case.
Well, no, but I think Manchester is a good example of somewhere where it has worked. I think Manchester is quite a dynamic place as a result, and partly as a result of those changes. But there's an awful lot more in the white paper that I wasn't expecting, such as abolishing district councils or merging district councils. Yeah. I don't think there's much demand for that. I don't know where that's come from. I think that's just Whitehall fiddling for the sake of fiddling.
They're sort of arguing, aren't they, that it will mean that you know who your representative is. And Tom Hunt said to me, well, sometimes when I was a district councillor, I'd go round to talk to people about something or other, and then they'd ask me about potholes, but that wasn't my responsibility, so I had to tell them to go and talk to somebody else. It seems an awful lot of bother to just change that, though, doesn't it?
No, reorganising local government is that's not going to solve that problem.
No, it sounds to me a bit like painting a fourth road bridge, isn't it? You sort of get to the end and you have to start all over again. Yeah, well, because you can't really. Local government is a law unto itself. Nobody understands how it works. All I know is the council tax keeps going up and nothing much changes.
Yes, and everybody says it'd be nice for decisions to be taken, closer to the people, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then they decide, no, well, actually, it'd be nicer if decisions were taken at a larger level, so that more impact can be made. And that tension is never going to be resolved. And so when the government starts talking about devolution within England, I think we should count our spoons.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There we are, agreeing again. What about China? What's going to happen about that? The Mail this morning going on the attack on Keir Starmer, saying why on earth is he sucking up to China? Let's have a quick look at what he had to say yesterday.
We are concerned about the challenge that China poses. Our approach, as you know, I had a meeting with the President just a few weeks ago now. Our approach is one of engagement, of cooperating where we need to cooperate, particularly, for example, on issues like climate change, to challenge where we must and where we should, particularly on issues like human rights, and to compete when it comes to trade.
As I was saying earlier, he seems to have taken to standing in front of any old flag now. He'll even stand in front of the Norwegian one,
Yeah, that was definitely the Norwegian flag.
It was.
Same colours as the Union Jack, so convenient. But that sounded like a bureaucrat trying to remember his brief. He got all the points in. I've seen President Xi recently, and we've got to engage, but mention human rights every now and again.
Exactly. But it didn't do too well the last time he did it, because the last time he mentioned human rights, he went and arrested a load more people in Hong Kong and locked them up for sedition. But there we are. What can you do? Is he going to be back in Britain for this time tomorrow? Is there PMQs this week? I don't know.
There is PMQs tomorrow, and yes, he'll be back. I think he's coming back today.
He's in Estonia today for some
two-day trip
reason.
to Norway and Estonia. Yes.
Yeah. What's in Estonia?
Well, the JEF, which is the Joint Expeditionary Force, which is some kind of talking shop designed to impress the Russians that we are standing by the Baltic states. So you can't say that's a bad thing. But I
don't know what it is, so I can't judge. I mean, I asked a minister yesterday what was the point of his trip to Norway, and he couldn't tell me.
Well, yes, I mean, that could have been a Zoom meeting, or it could have been an email.
Yeah, exactly. But he said, we'll have to wait and see. And I'm like, there's a lot of people waiting and seeing.
Yeah, no, but I think visibly standing by the countries of the Baltic and asserting our solidarity with them in the face of Vladimir Putin's aggression is no bad thing.
OK, well, it may not be, but he's got a few other things on his plate as well. So, I mean, anyway, that's another story. I've got the greatest summation of our conversation, I think, that's ever been written here from Anna in Surrey, who says, please tell John Rentoul this. He sounds like my ex-husband trying to explain his affair with my best friend as nothing to worry about. I think that's brilliant. It's very good. Yeah. Anyway, listen, great to see you. Have a nice Christmas if I don't see you before.
Thank you very much,
Because I'm only here till the end of the week, and we should look forward to waiting and seeing what happens in the new year.
Jolly good.
Excellent stuff. John Rentoul there from The Independent.